October 5th, 2023, when I was putting my 2-year-old son in his car seat, 8 red dots on my chest, AR rifles pointed at me saying, FBI freeze. At that moment, I knew this is one of those moments in life where you're really going to have to recalibrate.
And now, facing the potential of jail time, how do you sleep at night?
There's definitely some dark moments.
Mathew Bowyer hit the front page of CNN when a $50 million betting scandal tied him to Shohei Ohtani, facing time in prison. Today, he's rewriting that story through his book, Recalibrate, and by guiding others toward better choices.
You placed over $1 billion in bets and wages.
Yeah, I've been gambling since I was 12 years old. I was running a poker ring at my house.
What was the nature of that business you were running?
A legal sports betting operation. I had an offshore website in Costa Rica, I had about 6 of them. Shohei Ohtani and I have never had one conversation. I dealt with his interpreter. I saw he was betting sports, so I offered my service to him. And that parlayed over the next few months to 40,000 to 200,000, 500,000 to $1 million. Come to find out later, he was taking money from Shohei, which I didn't want to be part of. The higher the profile I got and the more money I was making, the more of a target I became.
At your peak, what type of numbers were you?
$500,000 Rolls Royce Cullinan, I had a Bentley, G-Wagon, Ferrari. We were traveling literally every 2-3 weeks on a private jet.
What's the biggest swing you've ever had?
$9.5 million on the Kansas City Chiefs football game, Super Bowl 2023.
And you made, what, like almost $5 million on that?
It was like 4.3 for that plus 600,000, so yeah, it was like 4.9.
And then fast forward that day, they raid the house.
I immediately, in my mind, I knew that my life was changing drastically. I'm probably looking at some prison time.
What's been the most surprising thing that you've learned about yourself being on this side of the fence?
Your positivity is everything. The underdog story that I'm providing is going to be very big. I plan on making more than I've ever made in my life. At 50, I'm just getting started. I know that sounds wild, but check back in 5 years.
Before we get into this epic interview, I have one quick ask. Well, we've had the privilege of reaching millions of people on the show. The data shows that almost 80% of you guys who watch the show aren't yet subscribed. So if you could do me one quick favor and click that subscribe button right now, it would mean the absolute world to us. Because when you hit subscribe, not only are you allowing us to grow the show, get bigger guests, ask better questions, but you're allowing us to honor our commitment to do everything in our power to help you take your life, your business, your health, your relationships to that next level. And with no further ado, enjoy the show.
Matt, thank you so much for being on the show today, brother.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Absolutely, man. So we'll get into your story for a little bit here. But for people who don't know, can you give them a little bit of high-level context as to just how high the level that your gambling game got to?
It was pretty high, about as high as you could ask. So when I was going into casinos, I would basically ask, what's the limit? And that was my first question. The limits in casinos are based on how much you bring as a bankroll, your credit line or your post-up money. And what I realized as I continued to grow in my younger years of gambling is the bigger the bankroll, the bigger you can bet, right? So you need to bring, 2 million, 4 million, 5 million, whatever the number is, to get higher limits in blackjack, poker, whatever you're betting. Mm-hmm. So my goal was to bring as much money as I could so I could get those limits to as high as possible, because my goal walking in a casino was to win as much money as possible, obviously. But in doing that, you need the limits have to be bigger. Mm-hmm. Because if your money management is a really small bet and then your higher bets are obviously limited, it's much higher to win a lot of money. So my theory was, if I could bet up to 300,000 a hand, mm-hmm. then I know that if I catch a heater or I win 12, 13 hands in a row, I can make $3.5 million in basically 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I learned that at a very young age that you can't beat them over time. So the only way to circumvent that and to have an edge is to find ways to have higher limits.
And speaking of high limits, you placed over $1 billion in bets and wages.
Yeah, I've been gambling since I was 12 years old.
Take us back, before the Shohei Ohtani scandal, before $1 billion in bets, like before all of this, you were all over the news, ESPN, et cetera, for, what you're going through now. We'll get into that as I know you're facing charges and, have a bunch going on with that. Take us way back. Where did the young Matt first fall in love with gambling as a kid?
When I was 12, I was running a poker ring at my house.
Where'd you grow up?
In Garden Grove, California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I actually grew up in Cypress, but I went to high school in Garden Grove, so on the border. And I went to Pacifica High School. And when I was a young boy, I was a newspaper route, delivering papers. And I was collecting baseball cards. And I learned my parents got divorced when I was 12. So it put me in a predicament where, we were the kids who lived a very good lifestyle, very, modern, but, we had everything we wanted. I had 3 brothers, and if he wanted to play baseball, my parents would buy me the brand new baseball glove, baseball bat, whatever. So we really didn't struggle. And then when my parents got divorced, struggle became a factor. And in that struggle factor, it made me become a hustler.
How old were you at that time?
12. And that's when I started the paper route. That's when I started. I was at 14. I won the record in Orange County for sales for selling the paper. We were going door to door selling the paper. And what I learned was if I don't make my own money at 12, 13, 14, I don't have to ask my mom for money. So I just learned ways to hustle. Baseball cards. Eventually, you know, working at a gas station, you know, selling weed when I was 16. Running a poker game out of my house.
Did you ever smoke it, or you just
No, I just sold it.
Never got high on your own supply?
I was never into drugs. I've never done really any drugs in my whole life.
Yeah.
I tried weed when I was 16, 17 years old. It just wasn't my thing. And, you know, at that time it was obviously, weed was considered illegal, whereas now it's not. But for me, it was just a hustle to sell little dime bags, and I thought it was cool, try to hustle and make a few dollars, you know. But the poker was really where I was making money. And that got broken up when some kids owed me a lot of money, which in high school, when I say a lot, $300-$400, which when you're 16 back in, you know, 30 years ago is a lot of money. So some kids were losing a little bit more than they could afford to. And we had little IOUs in their pocket. One of the kids' mom did some laundry and found this little cheat sheet saying he owed me $370 after giving me all his baseball cards and whatever I could deem throughout the house. And we had an intervention at my house. I had like 3 moms at my house with my mom and sitting down and telling me what's going on here. What are you running here? So.
But when you first got into it, you said you were 12 years old?
I was 12, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's when my hustle really started.
Yeah.
I really didn't start booking bets until I was probably 15, 16. But even then, we were talking $25, you know, $50 at most. I mean, you're not talking big bets.
You were just getting the ball rolling at that time.
I was.
Take us back. You said at 12 years old, that's when you first get into it.
Yeah.
And then you start winning these games at the local high school. And then where's your first prize where you win it and you go, holy cow, and this purse sort of opens your eyes to like, I love this.
You know, truthfully, when I was young, it was just more of a hustle and it was more fun. I think the real first prize per se of real money was when I was 21. I went to Vegas with probably about 12, 13 of us. And we were normal 21-year-olds where we had 3 to 4 people in a room. You know, everybody's chipping in, sharing beds.
Rolling beds, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But I was already making money because I was a commodity broker. So, but I didn't want to be like that snobby kid that gets his own room. So we just wanted to be with one of the boys, whatever. So we went to Vegas.
What's a commodity broker for those that don't know?
So I was trading commodities, soybeans, gold, silver, you know, pretty much any physical commodity. Instead of stocks, we were trading.
So as a kid, you got into that just to make money? Like that hustle in you was there from when you were very young, huh?
Yeah. So going back, you know, to back reference my story, when I was 18, I went on my senior trip, and I got kicked out of my house for selling weed by my mom. So I moved in with my buddy's house, which was a couple blocks away. And then we went on a senior trip, and I came home, and then now his mom had the scale and the weed out on the countertop when I got home. So I knew that I was out of that house next. So at 18, you know, I was just high school kid, just graduated high school and kind of being a hustler and just figuring things out. I knew that I had to actually get a real job.
Right.
So I moved into an apartment with a buddy of mine and my ex-wife, who I have 3 children with, who were great friends. So we all got an apartment together. It was 3 of us. And I got a job at the La Salle racetrack selling programs. And then I worked at the airport stocking the gift shops, which to me was like, you know, it was a normal job, nothing wrong with that, but it just didn't have that hustle to it. So I never wanted to be a 9-to-5 employee. I just didn't see the value in that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But I was always an entrepreneur mind. I just didn't know how to do it.
What drove you to want a big life, a big opportunity? What was the fire inside that drove that?
I think my dad was an entrepreneur. I mean, so my parents owned a bail bonds company and an air tool supply company. So my dad was very successful. The problem is he drank 40 to 30 beers a day. He was a really bad alcoholic and smoked 3 packs of cigarettes, but he was able to sustain and run a business even though he had this serious alcohol problem. So when you're able to sustain a problem, I tell this to everybody who's in addiction, right? A lot of people don't really have a drug problem, or they don't know they have a drug problem until they run out of money. Because it's not a problem because they can sustain it.
They're functional, quote unquote.
Correct. It's the same thing with alcohol. And it's really the same thing with gambling. If you really think about it, like if you're making, let's just say you make $5 million a year and you have a gambling problem, you lose $2 million, you still make so much money, you can function and nobody knows there's a problem.
Right.
But you're losing $2 million a year. That's a problem. So no different from my father, right? He was drinking 30, 40 beers a day, but functioned perfectly. We lived in a beautiful home. We had a river house. We had all the toys. The marriage I thought was okay. And then at 12, my mom finally had enough after like 4 interventions and et cetera. So that's when it all broke. So anyway, when I was 18, I had to go get an apartment. So I got an apartment and I realized that I started working 2 jobs and I just was miserable because I was working, making ends meet and barely paying the bills for this really shitty apartment. And so that wasn't the life I wanted to live.
Yeah.
So I decided to move back in with my mom, who lost our home that we grew up in and moved to a mobile home park in Dana Point, California, which was really like humbling because, we had this really big house and multiple properties and we always had the, river house with the boats and the jet skis and we had a really good life. So now my mom lives in a mobile home park and it's a double wide mobile home park, right? So I had to move in there. And so my ex-wife and I moved in there because she just got pregnant at 18 years old. So all this happened at the same time. So long story short, I moved in with my mom. We slept on the couch, and I said, I gotta do something with my life. So I decided to be a waiter because I had no college experience, and I realized that if I was a waiter, I think I could meet somebody who has a business, an entrepreneur, and that was my only out because I didn't feel like at that time, I'm 50, right? So this is going back 32 years ago. A college, degree was everything. Whereas now everybody has a degree. They still can't get a good job. Sure. It's harder. Back then, if you had a college degree, you have a huge up. So I didn't have that. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to be a waiter. Waiters make decent money, especially for an 18-year-old kid. And I'll meet somebody who's, got a business and I'll work my way in that way. So that's exactly what happened. But the difference is I went to a restaurant called Chevy's in Dana Point, and they were brand new. They were just opening. So the GM says, I can't give you a job as a waiter because you have no experience. You're 18 years old. And I said, well, it's delivering food. I have common sense. I'll handle this. And he's like, I can't. You could be a busboy. So I'm like, okay. So I just took the job. So now I'm a busboy at this restaurant, right? And waiters are doing their thing, and I'm making more in tips as a busboy than the waiters. And the GM's like, what are you doing? And I said, it's called personality. I'm having conversations. I'm giving these people an experience, even though I'm delivering chips and salsa and water. I have conversation with people. I'm actually, giving them whatever they need. I was figuring it out. When the waiter screwed up the food, I was the one who would go fix it. So I started making good tips, as a busboy. And about 4 months into this job, this repetitive people were coming in, and I got a job opportunity. And this Indian couple comes in, who was my mentor. He says, hey, my wife thinks you're amazing. She wants to give you an opportunity at my company. Do you want it? And I said, I'll take it. And he goes, we don't even know what it is. I said, I don't care what it is. I don't want to be a busboy. So I drove to Irvine, California in this beat up car, $400 car with holes in the bottom of it. And I go to this company and it was amazing. There's guys in suits and ties. They're 30 years old, 25-year-old kids making huge money. Ferraris parked everywhere, every car you could imagine. And I had no idea what it was. And it was a commodity brokerage firm. And to this day, I didn't even know what a commodity was, just like you asked the question earlier. And so long story short, it was a mailroom opportunity. So I got a job in the mailroom, and it was $1,200 a month. I was working 60 hours a week, and I was thrilled. I went to Marshall's and bought a couple cheap ties and put on this, cheap outfit, and I thought I was somebody, right? But what happened was I was actually the mailroom employee, but I was actually the personal assistant for the owner. His name was Mickey Dillon. And he owns the company called Dita Eyewear to this day. And we're great friends. He was in my wedding. He's just an amazing guy. Wow. So if you look up, Dita Eyewear is a huge brand. So he's very successful. And long story short, I worked for him directly. So in that process, I got the knowledge of working with one of the smartest individuals in the world. So it molded me to just think outside the box even more.
And you got to see how successful people move.
Yeah, he had everything I wanted. Financially, even with his family, everything. So the great thing about this company is, this is before the internet, when people would call the company, I was their direct first contact. So I would transfer the phone call to a broker of the day. And when I would transfer the phone call, we had those, headsets. I would send it through, and then I would hit mute, and I would patch it through, and then I would stay on the call. I wasn't supposed to, but I wanted the sales training. So I listened to these guys sell, and it was the best experience in the world. So after about 6 months, I started studying for the Series 3 exam, which is the 7th hardest test in the nation. And by then I was almost 19 years old, and I went to the owner and I said, listen, I'd like to take the exam. And he's like, well, you're not even an assistant broker. We're not going to give you the exam. You don't even know what it is. I said, I'll pass it or you can fire me. And he said, how do you even know how to pass the exam? And I said, I've been studying. I handed him flashcards. I said, ask me any question. He grabbed like 4 of them and he asked me. And obviously I answered them. He says, it's $400 for us to have you take the exam. And if you fail it, you're willing to lose your job. I said, absolutely. He said, all right. So he put me in. I barely passed because it's 2 parts, right?
Yeah.
And I got a 74 and an 80 something. You have to get 70 on both parts, rules and regulations. Long story short, I ended up training a new guy. He hired me for the top broker. And within 6 months, we basically were the number one every single month for sales. And these guys were making $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year, which this is 32 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was still booking bets on a small version because I had no money. So $50, whatever. But so the brokerage firm I worked for, they all realized I was just a huge gambler, even though I didn't really have a lot of money yet. So as I worked my way up, I started making money. So when I was 21 years old, I was on my own. I was the number one broker at the company, and I bought my parents' house that we lost. I bought it back, that I grew up in Cypress, California.
Wow. So you were able to build capital by the time you were in your early 20s.
Yeah, I bought the house for $570,000.
Wow.
Literally the house I grew up in. I moved in with my, at that time, 2-year-old daughter and my ex-wife.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to the video in a sec. But first, quick question. Are you a business owner, coach, or agency owner tired of using a million different software tools to run your business? Well, thanks to today's sponsor, High Level, you don't have to anymore. High Level is the #1 all-in-one marketing and CRM platform built to help you capture leads, automate follow-ups, book appointments, send emails and texts, and most importantly, generate profits all from one place. It's used by thousands of 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs around the world, just like you, including many of the guests we've interviewed right here on this very show. And yes, I personally use it too for my own business. So whether you're scaling your business or managing clients, High Level helps you save time, close more deals, and grow faster without the tech headaches. And the best part, they're offering a free trial just for our listeners. So why wait? Head to gohighlevel.com using the link below and start building smarter today. A big thanks to High Level for sponsoring this video, and you can click the link below now to get your 30-day free trial instantly. Now, let's get back to the show.
What was it about gambling that was so addicting for you, or so
Dopamine rush, the highs and lows of the, putting your balls on the line and having, in 3 hours of a football game or 30 seconds at a blackjack hand, you can determine a massive amount of money swing that is so large, it's uncomparable in anything else.
What's the biggest swing you've ever had?
$9.5 million on the Kansas City Chiefs football game, Super Bowl 2023.
How much did you bet?
I bet $4.2 million on the game. And then when, I don't know if you remember the game, Patrick Mahomes hobbled into the halftime. Literally, they thought he had a broken ankle, and Chad Henne was supposed to come in. And I bet $400,000 in the second half. Really thought I was going to lose. Because I thought he was not going to play. And then he came back out and had the halftime of a lifetime.
Wow.
And to beat the Eagles.
And you made what, like almost $5 million?
It was 4.2. It paid a little bit more because I bet him on the money line. It was like 4.3 for that plus 600,000. So yeah, it was like 4.9.
What was that rush like?
Considering I really thought I lost,
Yeah.
it was one of the best feelings ever. I was in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
I actually bet most of the bets were in the Atlantis. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a beautiful place, the Bahamas. And I was down $1.5 million at the tables. So I was already upset about that. So to win all of that back plus another $3 million and have the trip of your lifetime, and plus to win a football game that you really thought you were destitute on was fantastic.
Now, what about the biggest loss you've taken, the biggest L gambling?
Truth, I lost $3 million in a casino multiple times. So I really never lost more than that because I was always, if I had more money at the time, if I brought more, I would have lost more. I just, I never went to a casino with more access than $3 million.
And at your peak, what type of numbers were you playing the hands for at Baccarat?
The most they would let me bet is 300,000 a hand. So my limit was actually 150, but I had a little entourage with me. So I had about usually 6 or 7 people that would come to me or come with me on these trips, and they would place bets for me. That was my way of circumventing limits. So as an example, let's say you roll with me on the plane, we'd go out. I'd say, Omar, I'm going to give you 200,000. You're going to buy in under your name, and your max is going to be 20,000 a hand. So when you see me bet 150 and I give you the wink, you're going to bet 20,000, whatever the max is.
Right.
So that's my way of maxing the whole table, because they wouldn't allow me to bet 300,000. So that's the only way to circumvent limits. The only other way to do it more is if you put up more money. And I didn't have $10 million to put on a deposit, nor was I willing to risk that.
Yeah.
I had points in my life where I had $10 million, but I wasn't going to put it all on deposit in a casino.
Holy God. And so you never stopped. Like, you stayed on that journey the whole time, the ups
From
and downs.
21 until a year and a half ago.
What was the first pop you had when you were younger where it was like, holy shit, you got addicted?
When I was
that the one that was like 20 grand when you were 21?
Yeah, when I was 21, I was telling you earlier, we went to San Remo, which is no longer there. And it was this dumpy hotel. And I realized what a dump it was when we got there. So at the time, my ex-wife and I said, let's go somewhere else. So we walked over to New York Casino, and I just bought in for like $3 grand, which is whatever. And I won 20,000, and it felt like 10 million because, 3,000 to 20,000 when you're a 21-year-old kid's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So my casino host at the time, who became my casino host, they came right down, introduced herself, and says, "Oh, I would like to give you a room here." So I said, "Sure." So I didn't know what comps were all about. So she gave me this huge suite, and it was like massive. I could play football in it.
Yeah.
And I was just so enamored by it. And then all the treats in the room, and the
They treated you
seafood tower.
and respect.
Yeah, there was champagne, and so I'll never forget it. So that's the dopamine rush that got me. And even though I only won $20,000, it felt like $2 million.
Yeah.
And it sunk its teeth in me.
Snowballed from there.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to today, obviously, most people know about, the Shohei Ohtani sort of scandal, quote unquote. What happened with that for the audience that, may want your side of the story,
Sure.
so to speak?
Great question. So Shohei Ohtani and I have never had one conversation. Well, partially because he speaks Japanese. But the other reason is I dealt with his interpreter, Ipe Mizuhara. And I met him at a poker game after an Angels-Padres game, which I was definitely hanging out with a lot of Angels baseball players, and had a situation where some of them were customers of mine, et cetera. And so I went to, after the game was over, we would all go hang out because I had a relationship with some of the players. So we went to, it was in San Diego, went to their hotel. And afterwards, the games are over, the guys will screw around and play poker. So I went to the poker game and I met Ipe. So I ended up seeing that he was betting sports.
And Ipe is the translator for Shohei
correct.
Ohtani.
Translator for Ohtani. Well, he was.
Yeah.
And so he, we had a conversation, and I saw he was betting sports. So I offered my service to him, and that's how our relationship started. And it was really small. It was a $1,000, $8,000 account. So $1,000 a game, $8,000 credit line, which is minimal, right? And that parlayed over the next few months to 40,000 to 200,000 to 500,000 to $1 million. And then, here we are today, end up losing $16.2 million through my website. He actually lost 40 million, but 16.2 is what he paid. And it's really sad because I had no idea, truly had no idea that what was going on, whether he was stealing money, whether he was gambling or Shohei. People ask me all the time, well, how would you not know who was doing it? And I said, because it wasn't my business. I had up to 1,200 clients at my peak, about 1,200 customers. And one of the things I prided myself in is if you're a client of mine, you ask me for a service, it's to get an account through my website. I had an offshore website in Costa Rica, I had about 6 of them. And my service is to allow you to bet sports on my website and pay you when you win and expect to be paid when you lose. I don't need to ask you why you're betting, who you're betting for. That's all your business. Whether your wife knows or, that's your personal information. One of the reasons why people liked betting with an illegal bookmaker is the fact that they don't have to explain themselves. They don't need a driver's license. They don't need to, if they report their taxes, it's all on them. So people ask me, how did you not know it was Shohei or Ippei? Because I never asked. It wasn't my business, you know? And I know that looks in hindsight like kind of a dumb question. Like, why wouldn't you? Well, if someone's sending you $500,000 every 2 or 3 weeks and they're very happy with the service you're providing, why would you question that? You know, you're just going to continue to run your business, which is what I did.
No.
And for about almost 2 years, and then obviously come to find out later, he was taking money from Shohei, which I didn't want to be part of course. You know, I never, like, my customer, first of all, I've been doing this for, 2 years now. I've been out of the business, right? I'm no longer in it. But prior to that, I've been doing it for 25 years, 30 years. So, my job was to facilitate and give that service, but yet stay out of the people's way. I'm not interrogator. I'm not going to ask people exactly what they're doing or what their income is. I mean, I just try to control them so that they could have fun. It's a service that provides entertainment.
And for context, what was the nature of that business you were running?
Just an illegal sports betting operation. But it was also an online casino. So my website also provided cameras where in Costa Rica you could bet blackjack, roulette, baccarat on a camera as if you're in Vegas from your home in your underwear if you wanted.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then so for you at that time, where does the walls come crashing down?
October 5th, 2023, when I was walking to my vehicle, actually my wife's G-Wagon, I was putting my, at the time, 2-year-old son in his car seat, and I heard FBI freeze, and I thought it was a joke, literally. I look over to my left, and there's 8 red dots on my chest with AR rifles pointed at me saying, FBI freeze. And so at that moment, I knew this is one of those moments in life where you're really going to have to recalibrate. There's lot's about to change.
And this is at your multi-million-dollar estate, your family's there, wife, kids. I mean, paint the picture at the level your life was at before the walls came crashing down and you lost everything.
Well, I had a $500,000 Rolls Royce Cullinan. I had a Bentley, G-Wagon, Ferrari. I mean, all the cars that you can imagine that you really want. I live in a beautiful home. It's a $4.5-5 million home. But we were traveling literally every 2-3 weeks on a private jet to a destination, whether it was Las Vegas or, Dominican Republic or Bahamas. I mean, all over the country. I mean, Foxwoods in Connecticut. I mean, Florida, wherever there's a casino, we were taking private jets and going on planes with a group of people where you have lobster, seafood towers on the plane with a stewardess with every champagne or high-end liquor you want. I walk into a room, we'd have every level of alcohol. If you come into my home, I have, forget 1942, but I have every Pappy Van Winkle. I have any type of liquor you would want. I would request that because you're gambling at such a highest level that there's no comps you can't get. I actually was running out of comps to receive. So I started receiving really high-end wine.
And how long did you start living that life? How long did you live that life for once you started?
21 years old. The minute New York, I started when I won that first 20,000. I would say within 3 months, I started bringing $100,000 to $200,000 to Las Vegas.
And you're now 50 years old?
I just turned 50, yeah.
So almost for 30 years, you run this career where you're having success, running highs and lows. And then fast forward that day, they raid the house. What happens next? So
they raided my home in October. I immediately, in my mind, I knew that my life was changing drastically.
And you didn't see it coming whatsoever?
No, I mean, I was raided in of March of 2014, which was almost 10 years ago. And when that raid occurred, they took all the funds out of my house, but I signed an abandonment form. So the abandonment form basically states that I won't hire an attorney and I won't go after any of the funds, and I won't be charged. So I'm not going to say that gave me an impression of get out of jail free card, so to speak, but I don't hurt people. I did pay taxes, and I ran a very clean business. So even though it was illegal, I just didn't foresee in my mind it being such a negative business in a mind of I'm not selling fentanyl on the streets. I'm not doing anything, but that's really an excuse. I was doing something illegal. And at the end of the day, you got to own your situation. You can't just sit there and make excuses or blame everybody else. So my mind was like, okay, I've already dealt with this once. I don't think they're going to bother me again. But that was my naive of just, because the higher the profile I got and the more money I was making, the more of a target I became.
And so they come in 9:30 in the morning, guns drawn, Paint the picture the rest of that day or the rest of that raid.
So at that time, my one of the hardest moments was watching. I was outside. I had a guy inside painting and a handyman, and then I had my wife in there. And you see this tactical team going to the house, and that gut-wrenching feeling where you can't protect your wife that was the hardest moment for me. So, of course, within about 3 minutes, she came out handcuffed, crying. Then the handyman came out, and that's when I was like, and they separate everybody. So now you have 29 FBI agents and a dog going through the home, and they're securing the premise. So in my mind, I'm holding my son. They handcuffed everybody but me because I'm holding my 2-year-old son, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how am I going to handle this? I have 5 children. I have a very expensive lifestyle. I'm probably looking at some prison time, and this is not going to go well. So your first instinct is flight or fight, right? So my fight was, how do I amend the situation and make it as best as possible? The first thing was to get my son out of there and my wife. They allowed my mother-in-law to come pick up my wife and son and take them out of the premise. And then with me, I had a choice. I could either leave or stay, because when they do the raid, you're not allowed in the property because they got to do their thing, right? So I chose to stay. So I went in the backyard, and they wanted me to cooperate and talk, and I wouldn't do that. So I called my attorney, and for about 6 hours, they raided my home. And they just grabbed every jewelry, every dollar, every computer, obviously iPad, anything that's electronic. They scooped everything.
They took cash?
They took everything, yeah. And it took, if you would have saw my front dining room table, they would find, I had money in my Letterman's jacket from high school. I had money hidden everywhere. They grabbed everything and just put it on a table. Wow. And so, of course, they box it all up, and then you're watching them just take boxes of your property and taking it out to their car, and they're labeling everything.
What's going through you at this time? Adrenaline, fear, anxiety?
All the above. But, just watching my wife go through that, and then knowing that my children are now going to kind of deal with this problem that I put in front of them is really the hardest part. It's, if I didn't have any kids, I wasn't married, I'm not saying that it would make it okay. It just would have made it a lot easier. But the fact that I'm dealing with my family and trying to be a role model and a father, this is not an example of those, right? So that was the hard part. I think the aftermath, which I'm dealing with now, and how I'm handling it, is showing my children that in the face of adversity, you have to step up. You can't run from the fire, you run into it. And I think that's the message that I try to give anyone who's dealing with any adversity, because everybody cowers for the most part, not everybody, but most people. And for me, I try to run into it.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to this video in a sec, but first, I have a quick question for you. Given that the e-commerce industry is growing by the trillions year over year, have you ever dreamed of owning your own e-commerce business like many of the guests we've had on the show, but maybe you feel stuck on how to start? Well, if so, you're not alone. The truth is, starting and setting up your own online store can be incredibly time-consuming, complicated, and get expensive. Not to mention the hassle of researching top products and staying on top of market trends that make you money. Lucky for you, that's where today's sponsor, StoreBuild.ai, comes in. With StoreBuild.ai, you instantly get a free custom-built, AI-driven store loaded with 20 winning products and a custom theme that can help you generate sales. All you need to do is head to StoreBuild.ai, enter your info, then simply sign up to Shopify for free, choose your store's look and feel, and voila! They'll send you your custom-built store ready to generate sales. The whole process is lightning fast. Whether you're just starting out or want to grow, StoreBuild.ai makes launching an online store easier than ever. So why wait? Visit StoreBuild.ai, and in less than 5 minutes, you could have the e-commerce business you've always dreamed of. Thanks to StoreBuild.ai for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, one of the most fascinating things is a lot of people have heard about your story. We've seen it all over the news, ESPN, there's all these articles about it. Of course, because Shohei Ohtani's $700 million contract, it adds to the sensationalism of the whole thing. Does. But my question is, one of the things on social media, for people who don't follow you, I highly recommend they check it out, at Mathew Bowyer 5 on Instagram.
Thank you.
You talk about, you going to court, the paperwork you're dealing with, like how you're facing, the inevitability of, pleading guilty and facing time.
Right.
What does that feel like for you as somebody who, a lot of us have hypothetical worries of things going wrong. I can only imagine, having millions of dollars that you owe, having your entire livelihood completely stripped from you, the life you knew for decades, the success you built. and now facing the potential of jail time, and you don't even know how much jail time,
Right.
while having a wife and kids. How do you sleep at night dealing with that?
There's definitely some dark moments. I try to, for me, the best answer for that is to, every time you're having, whoever you are, whatever you're dealing with, every time you have those moments of like those really dark areas where your mind kind of goes in a really dark path, you got to dig inside yourself and find that little voice that, because we all have two of them, in my opinion. You have the voice that's telling you, the devil, right? Who's talking you into doing bad things, right? Whether it's drinking alcohol or doing drugs or however you face, adversity. And then you have the voice of that mindset of David Goggins, where it's like, hey, bitch, step up, be a man, handle your situation. You have a family, whether you have a family or not, whatever that you have to deal with, you got to handle it. So those two voices are the ones that I just bat the devil down as much as I can and run into the David Goggins side. So I do a cold plunge. I have a cold plunge in my home. I do a 45-minute infrared sauna. I work out, and I just have some alone time just really to reset my mind and motivate myself to just deal with that adversity. Even though the lack of sleep is wearing you down, or the anxiety of not knowing, am I going to prison? How am I going to feed my family? What do I do with all these assets they're coming after? How am I going to recalibrate my situation after this? I owe $9 million in taxes to the United States government, $1.6 million in restitution. I had 7 attorneys, 3 CPAs. The fees just never stop. I got a daughter in college. I got a daughter in private school. I got a 3-year-old son. It's like we're still trying to maintain a decent lifestyle. I mean, we've pulled back everything. I've sold all my cars. I've got rid of all the, the stuff that really means nothing, which that's the lesson I'm teaching my children, right? The material things come and go, but how you handle yourself and how you deal with adversity and how you're present. I mean, I'm much more present in my life with my friends, family, and people than I ever have been. There would be moments I'd be at dinner and I have $3 million on basketball, football games, and I'd be having a conversation with you, and I'm really not even there because I'm looking at my phone or watching a game because I have $3 million riding in the next 2 baskets. If Curry makes a shot, and it's like hard to sit here and talk to you about what's going on in your life and act like I care when all I'm focused on is he going to make this basket because it's a $3 million swing. So I don't have that anymore. So now I can sit here and have a conversation with you and really be present. And that part has been great. Don't get me wrong. I still need to find a way to get back to where I can make the money and take care of my family. That's my next step, right? That's why I'm writing a book. My book is completed. It'll be out for sale probably in October.
What are you going to call it?
Recalibrate, which is really my message, is when we all face adversity, it's how you handle that.
How you walk through the fire.
Yeah, you have to recalibrate your life. You got to, the number one thing I try to tell people is in life is the moment you can, this is the number one statement. How do you define success? I mean, if you really think about it, that's the most important thing you should ask yourself every day. How do you define success? Well, is it material things? Is it rich? Is it, what is that? And until you find your purpose and answer that question, you're really going to be unhappy.
How did you define it when, over the course of your career, let's call it arbitrarily 100 million. How did you define it on the path to making your first 100 mil?
To be honest with you, like the challenge of making money, and I had it wrong. Like we all love money, and I plan on making more than I've ever made in my life. At 50, I'm just getting started. I know that sounds wild, but check back in 5 years. Let's see where I stand. I think you'll be very impressed, but it will be for a different purpose. It's not, of course I want to have the cars again. Of course I want material things, but I will do them for a different reason. And I'll definitely do it legally, and I'll definitely do it in a purpose where my children really understand why I did it and where it came from. Whereas before it was like, I was feeding my own addiction of gambling. And I had this situation where you have this pot, you're getting high on your own supply. You said it earlier, right? That's what I was doing. I have this great business that's illegal, that's not so great because it's illegal, feeding this addiction that I have. And so I'm feeding this with this, but I'm really still empty because I have all these material things, but I'm really not defining my purpose.
Yeah. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. Like, I still had an amazing life. I did so many things that 99% of the world will never achieve or even.
What were some of the most surreal things you got to experience in your life? So you
So
never would have thought of being a broke kid from Garden Grove, California.
I took 18 people on a private jet to Dominican Republic. My mom, my brother, my wife, all my friends and family. We flew to Dominican, and we had front row seats to a private event with Andre Bocelli.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I got a meet and greet with him, so he sang to us.
Wow.
So that was pretty astonishing.
Surreal. Yeah.
My wife and I flew with the Lakers team to a road trip for 2 courtside seats.
Wow.
We were on their plane. They were playing cards at the front. We were sitting back with, the announcers, and that I have pictures of it. So you go on they take a Delta, that their private plane is a Delta. They hollow it out and put all first class seats, and so you're with the team. So we stayed in the hotel with the team. There were rooms next door to us.
Wow.
It was a surreal experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those 2 in particular, but I mean, there's 20 I could tell you.
Countless. Yeah.
Monte
yeah.
Carlo, like
Yeah.
incredible moments.
And so what level of presence do you feel like you have in life now? Because I'm sure you appreciate life at a whole new level. I'm sure the little things mean the most to you now.
They do.
That you sort of neglected. What's the biggest difference between, Matt, who was killing it back then, and then Matt, who's sort of been stripped of everything and face his own music?
That's a really good question. I think the arrogance I have is still there, but it's just less.
Well, so's the self-awareness.
Yeah,
No,
100%. Walking my dog, spending time with my son, going to dinner with my wife and kids, having a conversation like this with you. Like, these are things that are, things that I took for granted, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you get caught up in the high life, so to speak, and you're just doing these things, I was doing them every 2 weeks, literally, and flying high. I mean, really high. Money became, there was no value for it. I had no value for money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really a problem. If you don't respect money, you have some serious issues. And I had zero respect for money.
Mm-hmm.
And it created a problem with everything else in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But now, when I do something, like, for example, we were walking our dogs right after this happened. Japanese reporters were following us all throughout my neighborhood. So, like,
because the Ohtani.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
they were in my house every day, reporters.
So really, people just stake outside
They
your
would
house.
just stand right out in front of our house, and they video record us as I walk my dog, try to get me to talk.
How did friends and family change around you? I'm sure that's been pretty interesting.
That's been very interesting. So I have a really good source of friends and family in my life. So I would say that 80% of my friends and family have really stuck by my side.
Mm-hmm.
I think in people in my scenario, usually it's probably 40 or 30%, just being honest. But the 20% that I've lost, I'm happy I've lost.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that I don't need in my life, So now I've gotten to find out who's in my foxhole and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a really valuable lesson for me. I think what I've also noticed is there's been some people that I didn't think that would be in my foxhole that are, and that's been amazing because they've really stepped up and shown me what kind of friend, and I've underestimated our friendship or a relationship. So I'm diving into those more than I ever have because they really have been there for me in my darkest hours. Yeah. And I've always been the guy giving, truly, with all the stuff that I've really been very kind and generous. And it's nice to get some reciprocation, now that I need it.
How do you feel you've changed the most since being sort of your life changing 180?
I would say I'm just more present and appreciative. I've always had gratitude, but I talked about arrogance. I mean, I've always been a pretty cocky guy, but like cocky with some humbleness, right? Like,
right.
I talk a lot of shit. I bust people's balls a lot,
yeah.
and I still will do that, but I don't. I do it with a different gratefulness. Like, I just appreciate people for who they are more than I ever have, and moments and just time. Like, if we go do something and we play golf or whatever we do, and it's just a moment where I'm like so much more present and enjoying that and appreciative of it, as opposed to before that's something I felt like I deserved. I took it for entitled, very entitled actually. So I think when a person, it happens to a lot of celebrities too, right? When they become sustained to this lifestyle of they all become entitled, and I think it's hard not to sometimes when you have abundance of finances thrown your way, which I created, but it was illegal. And so you kind of become a little bit, I don't know, I'm going to say complacent, and you just feel like, I deserve this, which is a really bad attitude.
Do you ever have nightmares about jail, or doing time?
I don't say nightmares. I definitely have some dreams where I realize like I actually am dreaming that I'm in a white collar prison, because that's obviously in my mind.
Because your sentencing is supposed to be what, end of the year or so?
Yeah. So October is when I'm supposed to see the judge, October 3rd. And if, hopefully, God willing, I'll get lucky in a sense of I have tried to mitigate my situation, but I'm hoping that I'll get some leniency for all the things I have done. I've spoke to, professors and, kids at, USC. I've done a lot of speaking events to give back to kids about addiction. I go to Gamblers Anonymous. I'm required to do that. I see a therapist every week, required by the courts. So I try to give back any way I can to people that are fighting, whether it's addiction or even just people that are going through rough times. If they can resonate with my situation and get something positive out of it. I'm hoping the judge sees that and gives me maybe house arrest or, a light sentence, but that's all up in the air,
Yeah.
I do have a really good team, great lawyers, and I've done everything I possibly can. I do everything the court asked me to do. I whatever they've asked, I've done it.
And one of the things that's most fascinating is, people can see if they follow you on social, is that you're literally posting actively. Hey guys, today we're going to the courthouse. Hey,
Right.
we're going through. What gives you the courage or the balls, right? I know you said earlier off camera, people said you had elephant balls because you used to take these big gambles.
Right.
What gives you the balls to, be able to show up and sort of publicly say that? Because I'm sure there's a little bit of, not necessarily embarrassment, but, there's human
Sure.
emotions of maybe shame, maybe fear,
Right.
Anxiety, but to confront that so openly and confidently and take accountability for your actions and,
Right.
you pled guilty. So what drives that for you to be able to get on your story and just be that transparent with people in real time? Because most human beings would never share
Right.
the fact that they're facing the inevitability of time that could change their life, be away from their family.
Yeah. No, it's goes back to facing the fire, right, and running into it. I feel like the more open I am and the more accountable I am, the better I feel about who I am. And
Like it gives you a sense of control in an uncontrollable situation, kind
yeah,
of?
it just shows that, like, if I show the world and people who care or don't care about what I'm going through, maybe they could resonate with where I'm at in their own life in some way. Maybe they could say, this guy who they don't even know is putting himself out there tremendously. I'm taking a drug test where I'm holding my junk with a probation officer three steps away from me, watching me to make sure I'm not taking someone else's urine or whatever. Just these awkward moments that I share. It's really to show people that, not only is this very difficult, but like you have to just own it, be accountable for what you're dealing with. And the more I share it, the more self-soothing it is for me, because I realize by sharing it that I get a lot of positive feedback of people saying, "Hey man, thanks for being accountable. It's amazing that you're sharing this. You're going through hell and you're not just curling up in a ball and just being, blasé about it. You're actually telling us everything you're going through." And we're getting some, especially the people that have been through it, like, or going through it. I hear from them all the time. I have so many people in federal state cases that are like, "You're giving me some guiding light. Your positivity is everything. Like I want to kill myself." I could show you in my phone. I could show you gamblers that have hit up my Instagram and asked me this, like, "I want to kill myself," literally. And it scares me because I don't want to see some, even though I don't know who they are and it's just some name on Instagram. I immediately reply to that. And I say, "Listen, man, nothing is worth ending your life. Nothing. No amount of money, no, whatever you're feeling right now. I promise you I felt it times 10 and I'm feeling it as well. Yeah, not where I want to kill myself, but like this dark area. You don't go there." And so I find myself being a counselor at times, but it makes me feel good that I'm maybe saving someone's life or making them have a better decision in whatever they're doing. And I could literally show it to you on my phone. It's wild. I kept the most of them because when they say stuff like that, I'm like, I'll even text the guy or DM him back like 30 days later, "Hey, hope you're all right."
Wow.
It's hard though, because I can only talk to so many people.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of DMs coming in from people, and I don't want to be, but when I hear those words, it makes me definitely like feel good about giving back to these people.
What's the biggest regret you have being on this side of the fence about looking back on sort of?
I have that's an easy question. The biggest regret for me was not choosing other businesses that I would have been 10 times more successful in that are legal, because the talent that I have and the abilities I have, I mean, I could have made I actually told my wife this like 4 years ago. I said, you know what? I'm a wasted talent, completely wasted talent. I have so much ability and so many things I could have done that I would have made 10 times more money. But yet I've chosen something that's easy to me.
You wanted the easy, big money.
I did. I wanted
high life.
100%. And
you
that
got
cost
it.
me. I got it, but it's cost me.
Yeah.
And I could have ran a huge company, done so many things, and but it's okay because chapter 2, that's what I'll do. Mm-hmm. The underdog story that I'm providing is going to be very big. Mm-hmm. You know, I've met with many people who were doing a documentary on my life story. I met with some people for a featured film for my story. So I have a lot of positive things that are coming out of this, mm-hmm. and I'm going to run with it. Mm-hmm. But I definitely missed my calling, earlier in life. Now I'm going to make up for it.
What's your best advice to the young Matt? If you could look at where you're at today, both the good and the bad, the ups and the downs, if you could give, being on this side of the fence, advice to that young Matt who was looking for answers, ambitious, wanted to go out and kill it and
sure.
be a somebody, being on this side of the fence, what advice would you give to that young Matt?
I would say take the same drive you have and the same grind and hustle and apply it to something legal. Mm-hmm. And don't go for the short, quick, easy buck. Go for the long, hard grind, because not only is sometimes that more, forget profitable, but more self-soothing and enduring as you
sustainable.
grind. Yeah, I mean, you know how it is. If you work hard for something, or if somebody hands it to you, it really doesn't feel like a win. Mm-hmm. But when you grind and you work hard and you achieve something, there's no better feeling than that.
Yeah, you appreciate it.
You really do. And you actually look at yourself and you're proud of what you've done. We've all done it. And we've also had somebody give us something we don't deserve. And, you'll take it and you'll feel like empty. Mm-hmm. And so the last, I would say 10 years of my life have been fulfilled in many ways, but mm-hmm. very empty, if that makes sense. And it's like, I drove, $500,000 colon into my basketball league to go shoot hoops, mm-hmm. but I might be driving home and I'm just like, I'm still empty sometimes, Yeah. Whereas now I don't have that anymore, but I feel really good about what I'm doing and where I'm going, mm-hmm. even though I'm dealing with a lot of shit. Mm-hmm. I just know that the direction is good, and what I'm doing and the reasons I'm doing it are all for the right reasons.
What's been the most surprising thing that you've learned about yourself being on this side of the fence?
I would say my ability to continue to deal with adversity mm-hmm. has just been my strongest suit.
Are some days worse than others, or do
for
you have
sure?
It? Really,
definitely.
Are there days where you just break down and can't take it? Or for the most part,
I don't really break down, but I definitely have moments where I'll go to my wife and say, I'm having a tough day. Like this, I'm starting thinking about like my son. I'm not going to see him for a little while. I'm not going to see my wife. I'm not going to see my kids. Yeah. How am I going to make sure they're good when I'm gone? I can't protect them. That's my job as a father and a mm-hmm. husband. Those are the moments that hurt me the most. But I resonate that with, I'm setting them up as best I can. Mm-hmm. And I can't control the mistakes I've made. I can only make it myself better and learn from those mistakes, and continue to teach my kids that when you have adversity, you have to deal with it. Yeah. And that's really my biggest message to people is whatever your mistakes are, you got to just run into the fire and deal with it.
Yeah, and own them. One question I want to ask too is, how tough has it been for your wife, and how strong has she had to be? And what advice would you give to entrepreneurs out there about finding that right significant other that's ride or die?
Wow, it's a really good statement. I'll do the ride or die part first. That to me is the most important thing in the world. I mean, I think if you really go back and look at our choices in life, the number one and most important choice you'll ever make in your life is whoever your spouse is. I mean, it's a fact, because I've been divorced, and we've all been through breakups or whatever, but when you find that person who's really got your back and ride or dies with you through every moment of your life is pretty fulfilled in that area. There's no question. Mm-hmm. Your choices and everything I make are so much better because of her. Truly, like every decision I've made has been better because of my wife. Now, that being said, I feel bad that I'm put her through this hell, and she knew what I was doing. So, and she's tough, and she gets it, and she's been there, and she's definitely has some weak moments. But if I could say, like, the true team, a true entrepreneur needs to have that partner to really be by their side, to be the strength, mm-hmm. because we all have weak moments. Every entrepreneur does. whether Elon Musk or it doesn't matter who you are. And we need that person to be there at our darkest hours to give us that support, you know, because most entrepreneurs who are really successful have the least amount of darker hours, but they still need it.
Yeah. What's been the hardest part for you to deal with present day? Like you talked a lot about your strengths, but what's been the most challenging part for you that you're currently struggling with?
Probably just the anxiety of the unknown, you know, not knowing how much time I'm looking at. Am I going to get house arrest, which would be a dream at this point, just to be able to be home with my kids. I don't feel that the system is really, I'm not going to say fair. I deserve punishment. I don't feel that the system is better by having me sit in a white collar prison. I don't feel I'm paying the restitution. I'm paying all the government the money I owe. Is that really helping a 3.5-year-old boy by having his dad in a prison cell? I just don't see that. I don't have any victims in my case. I didn't take from anybody. I do believe people should do time for their crime, but I just don't think in my case, for what I'm dealing with, I don't think that helps society or my son. I do believe I deserve to be punished. I just don't think the punishment is really accurate in this case.
Yeah. And then 3 last questions I have is, number 1, I know you mentioned the book you have coming out. Where can people find that out, find out more about it, and when it's coming out, etc.?
Sure. Thank you. It's called Recalibrate. It's not out at all. It won't be out until probably October, right when I'm sentenced. I'll release it. It's basically being edited, this final editing, and the audio version, everything will be out. So I would say October. You can look at my Instagram at Mathew Bowyer 5. Or my website as well, and you'll definitely be able to purchase the book. So thanks for talking about that.
Of course, yeah. And then one of the questions I want to ask too is, you know, for people out there watching this, men or women around the world or around the country who maybe have their own dreams or ambitions and they're trying to make their life work, but maybe they feel stuck. Maybe they've got their own, you know, fires that they're metaphorically, you know, needing to walk through. What advice would you have for that guy or gal who's maybe stuck and trying to figure out how to make their life work?
Take a risk. Do not hold yourself back. Do not continue to sit and wallow and not make decisions to actually put yourself out there. Everybody who sits back and doesn't take any risk is the ones who don't go anywhere in life. You may take some risk and it may backfire and it may actually set you back, but you'll actually find out that eventually it will set you forward. Even a step back could be a step forward. It's just learning from the mistake, recalibrating, figuring out how to, you know, make the adjustment for whatever you chose to do wrong in that area and recalibrate it. But you have to take a risk in life.
Yeah, I love that.
Educated risk.
Bet on yourself.
Always.
Legally bet on yourself.
100%.
And then last question I have for you is, when Matt Bowyer is dead, gone, and nothing but a pile of dust, what do you hope your life and legacy was all about? To your family, your kids, and overall to life?
I would say I want people, mainly my kids and my family, just to say, you know, this guy lived every minute as if it's his last. He gave everything 100% and made mistakes and learned from them and continued to grow and evolve as a human being.
I love it. He took advantage of his one life. There it is, my man. Matt, thank you so much for being on the podcast, brother. I look forward to doing a round 2, maybe in October after sentencing.
Yes.
And going more into it. Any final words of wisdom, advice you have for people, or where they can find you if they want to connect more?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm really proud of you and growing your podcast and your name.
Thank you, brother.
At Mathew Bowyer 5 is my Instagram. Definitely look it up. I have other social media channels too, but I think that's the easiest way to find me.
Very cool, guys. Make sure to check those out in the description down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with a friend if you thought it was valuable and enjoyed this story. Until next time, we'll see you, and keep pursuing those dreams legally. God bless.